The story opens in 1879, during a period when European settlers were moving west to America. Some established homes in growing cities, others in small towns, and a few pushed into remote, uninhabited lands. One such family settled on the isolated grasslands of the Dakota territories, seeking a fresh start. Gerald Slaughter, the family patriarch, lived there with his wife, children, and elderly father. His daughter Mary was engaged to Fergus Coffey, a young man she had fallen in love with during their westward journey. The couple was preparing for marriage. Early in the film, Fergus presents Mary with a heartfelt gift, a tender moment between them. That night, however, the mood turns ominous. Strange noises echo across the plains, and fearing an attack, Gerald arms himself and shelters his family in the basement. Gunshots ring out and panic spreads. As they wait in terror, an unknown force begins to break through the basement floor, and the scene cuts away to their terrified screams. By morning, Fergus arrives to find the Slaughter homestead in chaos. Several family members are dead and others, including Mary, are missing. There are no clear signs of a conventional assault. Some bodies remain while others have vanished without explanation. Devastated, Fergus reports the incident to John Clay, a knowledgeable local who suspects Native American involvement and agrees to investigate. Determined to find Mary, Fergus volunteers to join the search. In a separate scene, Will Parter is picnicking with his family when he notices a man on horseback approaching. Initially alarmed, he relaxes when the rider is revealed to be Fergus, who carries a letter from the governor confirming the attack on the Slaughter family. Will, an experienced frontiersman, offers his assistance. Recognizing the danger to others, his wife encourages him to bring their son Dobby so the boy may learn to endure hardship. At the attack site, Will discovers a girl's body showing unusual puncture wounds on the neck, fresh and infected, and finds a mysterious hole in the ground nearby. At this stage, no one recognizes that the true threat is non-human and originates from below the surface. Will, Fergus, and John Clay assemble a search party to rescue Mary and any survivors. The governor dispatches Captain Henry Victor and a detachment of soldiers to join the effort. Captain Henry is stern, antagonistic toward Native Americans, and eager for confrontation. The assembled party includes Fergus, Will, John Clay, a freed African American cook named Callahan, known as Walnut, and a young Native American scout named Calloway who allies with the settlers. Despite palpable tensions, Henry asserts command. After burying the dead, the group departs. During the expedition, Clay stresses that not all native tribes are hostile and warns of a mysterious group called the Ute, who might possess insight into the events. He believes negotiation could be possible, but Henry favors violence over diplomacy. While crossing the plains, Will's horse becomes trapped in mud. As the group frees it, they fail to notice a recently buried body beneath the soil, further indicating that victims are being interred alive. Later, Henry's men sight a native rider. Without provocation, Henry shoots the man's horse and captures him. Will attempts to question the prisoner respectfully, showing a photograph of Mary, but the captive remains silent. Under Henry's command, the soldiers resort to torture to extract information, a brutality that unsettles Fergus, Clay, and Will. That night, Fergus speaks privately with Callahan and learns more about the cook's past. Once enslaved, Callahan now finds employment only as a cook because others refuse to hire him. Fergus confides that he had left Dakota for New York but, unable to find work, returned for Mary. Their conversation is interrupted when Captain Henry discovers Callahan giving food to the prisoner and threatens him with punishment. Later that night, while the camp sleeps, unknown creatures emerge from the brush and attack the night sentries. By morning, the group learns with horror that all the men on watch have been slaughtered. The attackers were not human. After the carnage, the party realizes they face a threat far beyond hostile tribes. The captured native man finally breaks his silence and warns them, the burrowers crave the flesh of white men and will not stop. His meaning is not yet fully understood. Ignoring these warnings, Captain Henry persists in torturing the prisoner until John Clay intervenes, enraged by the captain's brutality. The group fractures along ideological lines, with Henry and his soldiers on one side and Fergus, Will, Clay, and Callahan on the other. The latter faction decides to separate and pursue the investigation independently. As they press deeper into the plains, Will's son Dobby discovers the same peculiar holes in the ground that were seen earlier, confirming a connection to the disappearances. That night the party camps under the stars, unsettled and uncertain. Callahan returns, having abandoned Henry's contingent, and asks to rejoin them. He believes Henry's approach will only produce more deaths. They accept him. The following day they find an abandoned wagon with scattered belongings but no occupants. While idly throwing stones near a tree, Dobby searches for more and uncovers strands of golden hair. Digging further, they unearth a young woman buried alive, her eyes painfully sensitive to sunlight. She is paralyzed and unable to speak, but still conscious, her toes twitch and her gaze tracks movement. Will recognizes the unusual puncture wounds on her neck, identical to those seen earlier. The group concludes with mounting dread that the attackers do not kill outright but immobilize victims with a paralytic toxin, bury them alive, and return later to feed, subjecting survivors to a prolonged, conscious torment. Fergus is deeply shaken, fearing this may be Mary's fate. Will instructs Dobby to take the paralyzed woman to the nearest town for medical aid in hopes she can survive and provide information. The rest of the party resumes the search. To avoid further conflict, they attempt to pass through a forest territory associated with the Ute tribe peacefully. When a Ute tribesman approaches without hostility, Fergus panics and shoots him, believing an assault is imminent. John Clay is appalled. Diplomacy has been destroyed by violence. The forest explodes into retaliation as local youths attack. In the ensuing clash, John Clay is killed. Exhausted, wounded, and outnumbered, the survivors, Fergus Coffey, Will Parter, and Callahan, narrowly escape, taking temporary cover behind their fallen horse. They set the forest ablaze to create a diversion that forces the attackers to withdraw. The fire provides a fleeting reprieve, but the trio is left isolated, low on supplies, and separated from any prospect of reinforcement. The survivors press on, exhausted and pursued by a threat they do not yet fully comprehend. Meanwhile, Dobby, who was sent to seek help with the paralyzed girl, rests for the night in the wilderness. While he sleeps, one of the burrowers silently surfaces and injects venom into Dobby's neck, producing the same paralysis that afflicted the girl. Dobby remains conscious but immobile as the creature excavates a shallow grave and buries him alive, awake and helpless. Fergus and the others later encounter a native woman sitting beside a fire. They approach cautiously to avoid conflict. Observing the wound on Will's neck, she warns them in her language that the creatures will come for him. Will's condition quickly deteriorates as the poison spreads, leaving him weak and disoriented. The woman explains that the burrowers have lived underground for centuries, preying on wildlife when bison were plentiful. As settlers decimated the game, the creatures turned to human prey. Their venom thins the blood and softens tissue, rendering victims easy to consume. She confesses that her own husband became a victim and that she ended his suffering mercifully. She adds that the Ute tribe knows methods for trapping the burrowers, using infected humans as bait and exposing the creatures to sunlight, which is fatal to them. She warns bluntly that Will is unlikely to survive. The following day, Fergus and Callahan attempt to use the native woman as leverage, hoping to exchange her for any surviving captives, possibly Mary. Will's mental state worsens, he laughs uncontrollably and staggers, impeding the group's progress, but they continue. That night one of the creatures attacks, and in the ensuing chaos Will accidentally shoots Callahan in the leg. The native woman urges them to move quickly or face annihilation. Eventually the party reaches the edge of Ute territory and is confronted by two tribesmen. Fergus attempts to communicate, but language barriers and tension escalate. The Utes notice Will's infected wound and decide to use him as bait. They sedate and bind him to a tree. Horrified, Fergus watches as the Utes lure the burrowers in. While searching the area, he discovers a trinket belonging to Mary, confirming that she did not survive. Later, Fergus finds Will delirious and bound. In the effort to free him, Will accidentally shoots Fergus in the hand, and a trap is triggered that ensnares Fergus. As he struggles, the burrowers emerge to feed on Will. Severely injured but resolute, Fergus fights back with a sharpened stake and the Ute's poison, learning that sunlight is the creature's fatal weakness. By morning, the burrowers have been reduced to ash in direct daylight. Fergus returns to the settlement to find that Captain Henry and his men have arrived. Mistaking the situation, they execute the captured Ute woman and kill Callahan, demonstrating neither understanding nor restraint regarding the true threat. The cycle of brutality and ignorance continues. Devastated and scarred, both physically and emotionally, Fergus walks away. Unaware, he steps over a shallow grave that conceals Dobby, still buried alive beneath the soil. The story closes with a haunting admonition. Sometimes the greatest monsters are not only those that lurk beneath the earth, but the cruelty and ignorance that exist above it.